Hi, everybody. This is Tommy Lasorda. Listen to the Sandlot, the best thing that could happen to you.
The one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball.
Are you crying?
It's a part of our past, Ray.
There's no crying.
It reminds us of all that once was good.
There's no crying in baseball.
Just a bit outside.
Baseball will be very, very good to me.
It's a simple game. You throw the ball, you hit the ball, you catch the ball.
Personally, I think we got hosed on that.
The Sandlot Radio Network is on the air. And now, starting pitcher for the Sandlots, former pro player and Major League scout, Ted Howard.
This is National League All-Star Justin Upton.
Hi, this is Shane Victorino.
Hi, this is Albert Pujols.
Hi, this is David Wright.
It's Derek Jeter of the New York Yankees, and you're listening to The Sandlot.
Welcome to The Sandlot. It's where everybody plays. It's a place of our own. It's our field. It's our neighborhood. It's our team. It's our home. The Sandlot is presented by the Sandlot Radio Network and sponsored by Terramar Collective, Econo Air, South Bay Credit Union, Max Graphics LA, and Grit Sports Collective. The Sandlot returns for its 12th season and second on our new home, Fox Sports Radio 610 AM and 106.7 FM. We look forward to bringing you the childhood Sandlot stories from the biggest names in baseball, including players, coaches, scouts, front office personnel, and even media as they reflect on their road to the big leagues. Last week on the Sandlot, we had a true Southern gentleman, a student of the game of baseball from a very young age, MLB super agent Bo McGinnis. We also featured our Sandlot Radio Network baseball fanatic and producer Nick Wright for a roundup of who's hot and who's not in MLB. This week on the Sandlot, Nick is back for our Who's Hot, Who's Not baseball coverage, but this time we're going to be covering the teams over the last 10 games. We'll find out who's hot and who's not of all the different divisions. We also have a man with a golden voice. He's been a radio and television broadcaster for the Rockies, Pirates, Red Sox, and also alongside Rick Monday for the world champion Dodgers. This man is also a professor at Emerson College, one of the top schools in the country for journalism. We have Professor Tim Neverett. Right now, we have our very own resident baseball fanatic, Nick Wright, talking about what teams are hot and what teams are not in Major League Baseball. How about these teams in MLB and who's hot and who's not, Nick?
Tad, it's been a crazy last couple of weeks of baseball. We got to start with the AL East here. Come on, how do we not start out with the New York Yankees? They're 7-3. Aaron Judge doing his thing. I mean, he's down to 387 now. The horror. He's hitting 304 his last 7 games. But I mean, the Yankees, they're still cruising along.
Not only that, but they're 6.5 in front of the Rays, who have also gone 7-3 in their last 10, so that they're in a position to only be 6.5 out. The Blue Jays have also gone 6-4 in the last 10 to be just over 500, 31-29. But man, the Red Sox 2-8 in their last 10, and they are 10 games back of the Yankees right now.
And, man, the Orioles 14 back. Going back to Tampa Bay really quick, they've really been unbelievable. Jonathan Aranda, his last 7, he's hitting 500. And that whole team is just clicking right now. Tad, let's go to the AL Central. The best record in baseball, the Detroit Tigers, 40-22. They are 7-3 in their last 10 games. Skubal, I think he's a Cy Young favorite right now with only a 2.26 ERA. He's been insane. How about Detroit?
It's so good to see a team that nobody expected to be really good be really good. They were in the playoffs last year, and with a guy like Skubal who can go out there and just deal, and he's a guy that could throw a no-hitter any night. He's got that kind of stuff.
The Minnesota Twins, they're 5-5. Byron Buxton, he's hitting 323 this year, 11 ribbies his last 7. Cleveland Guardians, 5-5. Kansas City Royals, Bobby Witt Jr., he's only hitting 192 his last 7, but he does have 11 ribbies. I still think he's a phenomenal player. And, the poor Chicago White Sox, 14 games back at 19-42.
And Bobby Witt hit like 330 last year, so hitting 286 right now. He's not done Bobby Witt stuff yet this year.
Let's go over to the AL West. The Houston Astros, they've been on fire. They have been 7-3. And one thing about the Astros, Jeremy Pena, his last 7, he's been on fire, hitting 407. Altuve being Jose Altuve, he's hitting 308. Seattle Mariners, they're only 4-6, but still holding strong in second place. Texas Rangers, 29-32. The Angels, they were hot for a minute. They won 8 in a row a couple weeks ago, but they are down to 3-7, but have won their last couple games against the Boston Red Sox. And Tad, a quick thing that's actually kind of crazy. I think you're going to like this. In the entire history of the Boston Red Sox, in that stadium, the first time in history where a opposing team in the first inning hit 3 home runs. Mike Trout, Joe Adell, and I believe Taylor Ward. So I thought that was just kind of like a random stat when I was watching that game when that happened. Also, Mike Trout, is he back? His last 7, he's hitting .458.
I hope so. I hope he continues to be hot and puts up Mike Trout numbers. It's good for baseball.
And also just a real quick shout out. I'm so sorry. I'm an Angels fan, but Joe Adell, his last 5 games, he's hitting .400 with 3 home runs. And the Oakland Athletics, 23-39. They're 11 games back.
Hang on. Another thing about the Angels, they're 10-15 at home. That's not good.
Yeah.
The Athletic are 1-9 in their last 10, and at the bottom of the league in 11 games back, they're 9-21 at home, and they're playing in a AAA ballpark, sharing it with the AAA team. And another thing to think about, there's games being played on there every day, a big league game, and then when they go out of town, the AAA team is in town. That stadium, by the end of the year, the field's going to be rough. Those guys, that grounds crew's got their work cut out for them.
God, I hope they get a raise because that's brutal. And I just feel bad for the Athletics players, too, until they get settled in Vegas. Ted, let's go to the NL East. The New York Mets, second in the league in 38-23. And they're 8-2 in their last 10. And the thing is, I always kind of bang on Juan Soto the last couple times I've been on, but it's kind of scary. With him, Soto being average, maybe not even, average at best, the Mets are still cruising.
And they've won 8 out of their last 10 to put them a half a game in front of the Phillies, who still got a great record at 37-23, only a half game out. And the Nationals are hanging in too. So that's a really good division.
Yeah, the Braves 27-32, they're 10 out. Miami Marlins are kind of a disaster, 14 games out, 23-36. Let's go to the NL Central. Hey, your Chicago Cubs having a pretty good year. They're 8-2 in their last 10. They're 38-22. How about Pete Crow Armstrong? I mean, he's been pretty hot for them.
He's cooled off a little bit in the last week or so, but his numbers through this 60 games are unbelievable. And I just hope he can maintain the pace. The batting average dropped off quite a bit, and you're seeing that with pretty much everybody. Because when you play every day, you're gonna get out.
And Ted, what is it about these Cubs? Are they just like a top to bottom? They just seem like a complete team, pitching, hitting, just a lot of guys just contributing.
And they're young, and they got Craig Counsell at the top, and he's a brilliant baseball mind. And when he was with the Brewers, they were really good. He leaves there. Brewers were really good last year. They lose their unbelievable talented shortstop, and now they're hanging in, and they played really good. They've won 8 out of their last 10. It has a lot to do with our guy Yelich.
And St. Louis Cardinals, they are 6-4. They're 33-27. They're cruising pretty good. Brewers 33-29. Christian Yelich, again, having a really great year. Cincinnati Reds 30-32. And man, I feel bad for my guy Paul Skeens with Pittsburgh. They're only 22-39. He has pitched a great game. His last 3 games only given up a few runs, but he only gave up a run and still took the loss.
Paul Skeens is one of the best talents in baseball, and when you're 4-6 and your ERA is barely over 2, that doesn't add up. That means they're just never scoring runs when he pitches, and that happens with teams when you got your ace on the mound. For some reason, the offense kind of sits back on their heels and watches him pitch, but they don't score runs.
And Ted, I'm curious what you think. A lot of talk around, before the trade deadline, should Pittsburgh keep Paul Skeens or just send him away for a huge package? They'd be kind of crazy to trade away Paul Skeens, right? I mean, he could be their anchor for the future.
Yeah, you build your whole franchise around that guy. He's a true ace. There's only 5 or 6 true aces in baseball. Everybody's got their number one pitcher, but is he a true number one? Well, Paul Skeens is. You don't get rid of him. If the Pirates do, man, the fans are going to hang the ownership over there.
I feel like that's the kind of guy that you trade for, is a guy like Skeens. But anyway, let's go to the NL West. The Dodgers, I mean, they're 5-5, but they just had a walk-off win last night, thanks to Freddie Freeman. Of course, it was Freddie Freeman who had a walk-off in the 10th inning against the Mets. The Dodgers 37-24. They're just ahead of the Padres, who are 35-24. And even the Giants 33-28. That's going to be a tight race until the end of the season. I still think the Dodgers take it, but that NL West so far is interesting.
It is. In the last 10 games, the NL West has struggled. The only team that's played well in the last 10 games is the Padres, and that's why they're only a game behind the Dodgers, because the Dodgers have been 5-5. The Giants have gone 3-7, and so have the D-backs. And look at the Rockies. They won 2 games out of 10.
Oh, man. 11 wins. I mean, the Chicago White Sox had a historically bad season. Colorado might be following suit. When it comes to the Padres, Manny Machado just had a 4-hit night, couple ribbies. Machado's been hot this year. Do you think there's any chance the Padres can catch the Dodgers?
I think it's going to be a great race. That's a good baseball team what the Padres have. And as long as they're healthy, they're as good as the Dodgers because the Dodgers aren't healthy right now.
All right, Tad, let's go to the MLB batting leaders this year. Aaron Judge, I guess I could say he dropped off a little bit, but he's still at 387. Freddie Freeman, mentioned him. He has had a walk-off hit last night. He's at 369. How about Jacob Wilson? Little-known Jacob Wilson from the Athletics at 355, just been consistent. What do you think about these top guys so far?
Well, Jacob Wilson is the one that's probably surprising everybody, and he's the son of a really good fielding player for many years in the big leagues, and he's also a very good fielder, but man, this kid can hit, and it's unconventional. He's not trying to hit home runs. He's trying to hit line drives and ground balls through holes, and he's getting it done. Got 81 hits.
And also just underneath him, Ryan O'Hearn from Baltimore at 335. Jose Ramirez from Cleveland, 330. Paul Goldschmidt, he's been a little down, but still 327. Goldie's been great in his first year in New York. I mentioned Jonathan Aranda earlier, 324. And Will Smith, consistent Will Smith, 323. How about these guys?
Some of these guys are surprises, but I love to see that Goldschmidt's still there, and Will Smith has been consistent since the start of the season. And it's hard to go out and catch every day and also hit well. So I'm pulling for him to hit over 300 for the year. Manny Machado, of course, is always doing it. And then Stephen Kwan hitting 308 over in Cleveland. He's become a really good Major League Baseball player.
Yeah, between Stephen Kwan and Jose Ramirez, man, kind of just under the radar.
Trey Turner, of course, still hanging in there at 305. He's just consistent, and the Dodgers were crazy to give him up.
And also, it's still kind of weird to see Alex Bregman in Boston, but he's just at 300 as well.
Yeah, and he's been hurt, so those numbers have been staying right where they are for a while.
And just real quick for the home run leaders, I just got to mention Ohtani tying Cal Riley from Seattle. That's going to be a fight to the finish in the home run battle.
Well, I don't know about that. I think Ohtani will be there, but again, Cal Riley's a catcher. Man, to keep up with Ohtani for the whole year, who right now is just DHing. Think about sitting behind the plate all that time, or just sitting over there just getting ready to hit the whole time.
And also, Ohtani might be getting ready to pitch soon, too, so that could bring his numbers down. Speaking of pitching, let's go to the ERA leaders so far. Little-known Chris Bubich from Kansas City, only a 1.43 ERA. Good Lord, this guy.
That's dealing. And that Kansas City pitching staff is really good. And if you got a guy that's holding teams down to less than 2 runs a game, you're going to win.
Nathan Eovaldi from Texas having an insane year as well with only 156. They're hovering just below 500. They need him to keep dealing this year too.
Yeah, he's a workhorse, and when he's on, he's unhittable.
Everyone talks about Soto with the Mets and Lindor, but Kodai Senga only has a 1.60 ERA. He is dealing for the Mets as well.
He's really keeping them in it. And when these Japanese guys come over here, their stuff is so much different. It takes a while for the league to figure it out.
And we got Hunter Brown from Houston with a 1.83 ERA. Max Fried back up to a 1.92 ERA, but still having a great year. Tyler Mahle from Texas also having a good year with only a 2 ERA. Then you got Paul Skeens at a 2.05. Tariq Skubal from Detroit's at 2.26. DeGrom 2.34. He's still hanging around. So, I mean, there's so many good pitchers in the league so far this season.
Let's just hope nobody goes down with the Tommy John, because that's something that's been haunting baseball for the last several years. And I just saw a stat where there's been more Tommy Johns in the last 2 years than there were in the whole decade of the 90s.
Unbelievable. Knock on wood there. All right, Ted, and that's been Who's Hot and Who's Not.
Thanks to our resident baseball fanatic and producer, Nick Wright, for breaking down who's hot and who's not in MLB. Don't go away. We have a man with one of the best jobs in baseball. He's a TV and radio broadcaster for the world champion LA Dodgers. He's a professor of journalism at the world-renowned Emerson College in Boston. We have Tim Neverett's Sandlot story when we return to the Sandlot on KAVL, Fox Sports 610 AM and 106.7 FM. We are Fox Sports. The Sandlot, it's where everybody plays. I'm your host, Tad Powers. The Sandlot is presented by the Sandlot Radio Network.
Hey, everybody, this is Jeff Houston, and I listen to the Sandlot because I've been in this game for 40 years, and there's nothing like baseball.
Terramar Collective isn't just a brand, it's a tribute. Born from the Southern California coast and inspired by the legacy of a father who helped shape the board riding world literally. Terramar Collective repurposes vintage flannels and rare finds, blending timeless style with surf heritage. Honor the past, wear the story. Find us on Instagram at Terramar Collective.
Step up to the plate with EconoAir's solar services. Their solar solutions deliver unbeatable energy savings, keeping your power bills low all season long. Be a game changer. Switch to clean energy today. Sandlot listeners mention the show for an exclusive discount on maintenance or repair. Call EconoAir at 714-333-0130 and hit your energy savings out of the park.
With so many banking options out there, why choose South Bay Credit Union? As a nonprofit credit union, they're here to serve you, not shareholders. That means they're able to provide better rates, fewer fees, and more valuable benefits to empower their members to live better and do better. You want to master your money? South Bay Credit Union puts you in control of your money with everyday banking solutions. From checking accounts to home mortgages, credit cards to auto loans, their members have access to the tools they need to achieve their financial goals now and in the future.
Hi, everybody. This is Rick Mundy, former Major League player, former All-Star, and now broadcaster with the Los Angeles Dodgers. You're tuned in exactly where you need to be. It's Sandlot, and it's baseball.
They know them all from Boston to Dubuque, especially Willie, Mickey, and the Duke.
Welcome back to the Sandlot. It's where everybody plays. We're on Fox Sports 610 AM and 106.7 FM. Thanks again to our special guest host. He's our resident baseball fanatic and producer, Nick Wright. Nick gave us a really good rundown of who's hot and who's not in Major League Baseball. Right now we have play-by-play man for the world champion Dodgers, Tim Neverett.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, Dad.
Now, Tim, we got to go back to your Sandlot days because a love for the game of baseball that has lasted this long has got to start at a very young age. Let's talk about your Sandlot days because you are a baseball guy. I know you do a lot of sports, but truly you're a baseball guy.
Yeah, it starts with baseball. It always did. You know, we had a wiffle ball field in my backyard at home that we didn't go to the point where we built a green monster in left field, but we had a tree out there that was the green monster, and the ball was live as it bounced around and pinballed through the branches. And if you caught it on the way down, it was still an out. But we had lights coming off the garage, and then we had a temporary light clamp that we took off the clothesline that would light the right side of the field. We had bases. We had an actual home plate. We actually chalked it one time. We somehow got a hold of some chalk. I don't know how it ended up in the back of my brother's car, but it did. And we put chalk lines down, batter's boxes, the whole thing. And we played a ton, as kids in the backyard, literally in our own sandlot. But the love of the game really started from playing it, in Little League, where I didn't play, minor league baseball. They have a thing called minor league and then go to Little League. But what I did was I practiced with the Little League team and was their bat boy. And there were two of us who were the bat boys. And it was for my brother's team, a team I ended up playing for, later on when I was 9. But it was neat. I always loved wearing the uniform. And then we would have an opening day parade, and I got to hold the sign, our team's name sign, as we would march down Library Hill onto Main Street and then up to the ballpark down Amherst Street. It was always a big deal back in the 70s to have a parade on opening day, a legit parade. You go by the firehouse and they honk the horns for you and stuff, and you turn right into the driveway for Holman Stadium, and then our field was right on top of the hill, right out in front of the stadium. And then we'd get all set and we'd play a game that day. And, to learn how to go grab the bat and the timing of it. When a guy would swing and hit a ground ball or something, I had to wait until the play was over, then I'd go out and get the bat. And I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed playing catch, learning how to, get ready for a game, and then being the last guy to get to take batting practice because I was the bat boy. So I got to be the last guy to take BP. And I'd hit a few here and there. But as time went on, and I became eligible to play, I got drafted by that team, played for that team for 4 years. And by the time I was 11, I was starting all the time. We won the city championship. We had, started making all-star teams, things like that. Then it started to become a little more serious, but fun. It's serious fun. And the friends that you make along the way, guys you go to school with, guys you play, Sandlot with, and we used to play together. A bunch of my Little League teammates and I, we would play at a park called Rancourt Street Park that just had a backstop and a bunch of dirt, and we'd play with a tennis ball. And every day in the summer, I think it was like 9 o'clock, we would all get down there on our bikes and the game would start, and we'd play tennis ball. Then go for a swim, then have lunch, and then get ready for the game that night if we had a game that night. So we did a lot of that kind of thing. That was back in the day, Tad, I think when life was good. You didn't have the internet, you didn't have your cell phones, you didn't have video games to occupy your time. And what would you do in the summer? You'd go outside and you'd play ball, whether it was wiffle ball, tennis ball, baseball. Sometimes we would just go to the park and take BP if it was only like 3 of us. We'd go down with a bag full of baseballs, old raggedy baseballs. The seams were starting to rip, and it was no baseball we had was white. They were all dirty, and we didn't care as long as we could see it and hit it. We'd do that, and we'd play games of pickle, right, where you get in a rundown and you try to get out of the rundown. We'd play pepper. Nobody plays pepper today.
No, you don't.
But we would do these things. No, but we would do all these things as kids. And it really created a love for the game. And my coaches in Little League were great. One of them is still alive. And occasionally, when I get the opportunity, when I'm back home, I'll try to visit with him. And a lot of the things that he taught me, I still use today in the big leagues. One of the things that I learned as I advanced through high school and American Legion and through college baseball and advancing in baseball, one of the things that I learned when I was 7 years old was know what to do when you get the ball, when you don't get the ball, and once you get rid of the ball. Verbatim from my coach, Mr. Desmond. And I never forgot it, always used it, and it helped me advance quite a bit. And, he taught me the basics of the game, and it helped me advance. And the further I went along, playing, Babe Ruth baseball, middle school, then going to high school and playing junior varsity, and then advancing to the varsity, American Legion baseball, where we played very well. We won a state title. We were 2 runs away from the World Series. 2 outs away from the World Series, and we lost the game. It was quite an experience. And then getting to play college ball at Emerson for 4 years was really good. But all the stuff I learned on the Sandlot prepared me to take that next step each and every time that I moved up a level, and always found myself on the field because of everything I learned from a 6 or 7 year old kid, kicking around the dirt. I loved it when just coming home with a dirty uniform. Or if I wasn't wearing a uniform, if we were actually out at the park, coming home with grass stain on my pants and, dirty shirt and all sweaty. That was what was fun about being a kid back then.
And the backyard of the Neveretts became this place where kids gathered and became creative and created camaraderie, because we learned playing in those sandlots, not just about baseball, but about each other and about life. And to have that be in your backyard where, it could be a dozen kids, it could be 6 kids, it could be 4 kids, and it could be a variety of different characters. And you think about how that also shaped them and what they're doing today.
And what's funny, and you never think of it at the time, but I've thought of it later in life, is there was always the agreement to disagree about baseball. That was a strike. No, it wasn't. That was a strike. It was on the corner. It was belt high. No, it wasn't. And we had no umpires, right, to arbitrate things. And you'd get in arguments, and then you'd overcome it. And then maybe you'd, say, I'll get him and I'll hit a home run. And it motivated you. But that was part of being in the Sandlot. He was out. No, he wasn't. He was safe. He was out. So you argue. That's a staple of the game of baseball anyway, is the arguments. One side's always going to see a certain play a certain way, and the other side's not. But you learn to overcome it, and you are friends, and you stay friends. And I have friends of mine who I played Sandlot ball with and wiffle ball with and Little League baseball with that I'm still in touch with today, that I'm still good friends with today. And it's just a bond that's created between, human beings at a young age, and you bond over this sport of baseball. I have a very close friend of mine that I played on the Sandlot with, I played Little League with, I played high school with, Legion, and he went on to work in the public relations side in Major League Baseball for 2 different teams. And, he's got a World Series ring from the Cardinals. And when I got into the major leagues, he and I got together in St. Louis. And every time I go to St. Louis, or he'd come to my town, and when I was with the Pittsburgh Pirates, we would always get together and talk and whatever. Now we're at a stage where we look at each other and say, can you believe it? We have this many World Series rings between the two of us. I mean, this is crazy. And here we were throwing, wicked curveballs with wiffle balls in my backyard when we were 10 years old under the lights, swatting the mosquitoes away in the middle of the summer evening. So
it's almost,
you just never know.
It's almost like Benny the Jet in Smalls. Benny ended up being the guy that could steal home, and Smalls was up there in the booth broadcasting it. So
it's funny.
It really is. And there's so many people that have a similar story about their Sandlot, because in our era, it really did shape who were we going to be. And it was up to us because, like you said, there was no parent supervision. We had to learn to be diplomatic.
And that was part of being a kid back then in the 70s. It was great. Door opens in the morning, you're out. See you at dinner, or don't be home after the streetlights come on or you'll be in trouble. It wasn't that they didn't care what you did. It was that they knew you could take care of yourself. They knew who you were going to be hanging out with. And if they really needed to find you, they could. And if you needed to find them, if you got hurt, someone's going to come get you. So it was a different era of parenting. I mean, we rode bikes with no helmets. Can you believe that? My goodness.
There was safety gear. Imagine if we had safety gear, how much trouble we would have got in with our friends and how many fights we would have got in for a helmet.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we skateboarded with no elbow pads or helmets, and we used to take pieces of plywood and make ramps for jumping our bikes. And, all the things that today would be considered super dangerous, we all did them. Drinking out of the garden hose every day, right? I mean, that's how we got our hydration. We went to the garden hose, and, the first few sips, usually when you turned it on, were really warm because the hose had been coiled up and sitting in the sun for a while. And then you had to let it cool off. And, so being a kid back then, I wouldn't trade that for the world because of all the great things we got to do.
You're listening to The Sandlot right here on Fox Sports 610 AM and 106.7 FM. I'm your host, Tad Powers. The Sandlot, it's where everybody plays. We'll be back with more from Tim Neverett when we return. The Sandlot is presented by the Sandlot Radio Network.
This is Clint Barmas, and I'm still listening to The Sandlot.
This is former Major League pitcher Dave Dravecki, and you are listening to The Sandlot.
This is Doug Brocail of the Houston Astros, and you're listening to The Sandlot.
Dusty Baker, manager of the Cincinnati Reds, and you're listening to The Sandlot.
This is Joe Mauer of the Minnesota Twins, and you're listening to The Sandlot.
Terramar Collective isn't just a brand, it's a tribute. Born from the Southern California coast and inspired by the legacy of a father who helped shape the board riding world literally. Terramar Collective repurposes vintage flannels and rare finds, blending timeless style with surf heritage. Honor the past, wear the story. Find us on Instagram at Terramar Collective. The heat was unbearable. My AC was striking out and my house felt like a summer game with no shade. Then I called EconoAir. What a game changer. They knocked the heat out of the park and now I'm comfortable year round. Give EconoAir a call today at 714-333-0130. That's 714-333-0130. Sandlot listeners mention the show for an exclusive discount on maintenance or repair with EconoAir. South Bay Credit Union features 3 centrally located branches in the South Bay, 24/7 time-saving digital banking tools, over 30,000 free ATMs nationwide, and a 100% commitment to the South Bay. South Bay Credit Union cares about their community. They've contributed over 3,600 employee volunteer hours. Over 20 local organizations have received donations or sponsorships, and they have raised over $150,000 for the Children's Miracle Network. South Bay Credit Union. Live better, do better, bank better.
Hey there, this is Josh Holliday, head baseball coach at Oklahoma State. I'm the proud big brother of Matt Holliday, former major leaguer, and the proud uncle of current minor leaguer Jackson Holliday. And I'm listening to The Sandlot.
She's a hot little number in her pickup truck. Daddy Sweet Money done jacked it up. She's a party all-nighter from South Carolina, a bad mamma jamma from...
Welcome back to The Sandlot. It's where everybody plays, right here on Fox Sports 610 AM and 106.7 FM. Right now, we have more from Dodgers broadcaster Tim Neverett. We're with broadcaster for the LA Dodgers, Tim Neverett. Tim, thanks for sticking around for a second segment on The Sandlot.
Oh, not a problem. Happy to do it.
So we talked about Sandlot days. Now we're getting serious. We've made it through high school, and you got to make a decision. Where am I going to go to college? Emerson is a school that the best journalists in the country come out of. Let's talk about why Emerson, and you played baseball there too.
Yeah, so when I was in high school in my town, we had a big school. It was 3 grades, 3,000 kids. So it was highly, highly competitive to play. And at that point, after going through, the Babe Ruth leagues and playing in junior high, I was able to play at a level where I would get considered. And my sophomore year, I made the junior varsity and played all the time. And it really taught me a lot. Then the first year at American Legion, I was playing with all these varsity kids all summer long. It was a perfect storm for me because they just had a big roster turnover with a lot of kids graduating on the American Legion team. So I got to start as a sophomore and got to play every day and started realizing, okay, I can do this. Now I'm facing much better pitching. I'm running the bases and playing defense and doing all the things I'm supposed to do. And I said, I can do this. So the next year I went back and got to start for the next 2 years in high school. And during that time, I'm starting to think, okay, what do I want to do? Part of what I'm thinking is there is a part of me that would like to keep playing baseball, but I always thought about college first and playing in college. I didn't think that I wanted to play professional baseball, right out of high school because I was the youngest of four. They all went to college. I thought that's just what you did, right? You go to college and you play there, and then you graduate and you decide what you're going to do. So there came a point where I really liked the opportunity or the thought really of being around sports. I used to watch a lot of sports on TV with my dad. And the first time we ever had cable TV, there was a box on top of the TV and it had a slider that would slide to each channel back and forth. There was no remote control back then. I was the remote control.
Get up, Tim.
And
change the channel.
Yeah. And the baseball games we had were on all these super stations. It was not regulated like it is today. It was the Wild West, and we could watch everything on this cable package. So we would be watching the Red Sox, and then there'd be a commercial break, and he'd go, see what the Yankees are doing. And I'd get up and I'd flip it to WPIX in New York, which carried the Yankees at the time. There'd be another break, see what the Mets are doing. And I'd flip it over to WOR in New York. Then he'd say, see what the Expos are doing. And I'd flip it over to Canal Tres in French, and we'd watch the Expos in French. And, watch Le Lanceur, Steve Rogers, and the Guardian de Boue, Gary Carter. And so I used to watch the games in French, and I'd learn baseball French. But I would get up and change the channel all the time, and I'd say, you know what? This would be really cool to be an announcer. Then we'd start watching football games, and I asked my dad one time, I go, what do you think about if I was to be an announcer? Do you think they'd let me into the games for free? He goes, not only would they do that, but they'd feed you too, and you'd get paid to be there.
Pay you on top of
it.
it.
Yeah. So I decided, you know what? I think this is something that I would like to do, but I wanted it to be around baseball. And when I was a senior playing American Legion baseball, I got, in those days, the pro scouts would give you a card, a little index card to fill out. Okay. It's not like today where everything's,
digital
database and So you get an index card to fill out. And I got from 2 different teams. I got some attention, Cubs and the Expos. And each card has a question. Would you consider professional baseball as a career? And a little checkbox, yes or no. I'm like, who in the world would ever check no? That always stunned me that was in there. I know why they do it, but and you fill out your name, your address, your contact information, and all that stuff. And they had talked to my coach, and they talked to my coach about a couple other players too. And they said, look, when the draft comes around, they'll be in touch if they're interested in you. So I'm thinking, really, that could be fun. And I didn't get drafted. I didn't hear from anybody. And I was already on my way to Emerson because I decided this was going to be the path I was going to take. I was going to be able to play baseball and go to school. I had the opportunity to go to a couple of other schools to play a different sport, actually, which was track and field, because in the winter, I was a sprinter in between football and baseball. I didn't play basketball. I ran track in the indoor variety, and a couple different schools wanted me to do that. And there would have been some scholarship money in one of them, but I decided that Emerson was going to be the best way because of the school's reputation, and I could get in there and get my hands on, on radio and television right away. So I decided to go that route. And when I didn't get drafted, I thought, you know what, the best way for me is to continue to play through college, see if I get any more attention. And if I don't, then try to get in the booth, try to figure that out. And after my freshman year, we had a professional baseball team come to my town in the Eastern League. It was AA. It was the Pirates AA affiliate. We actually had the Angels in. They left, and the Pirates came in, took over the affiliation. And after my freshman year, I was going to play semi-pro baseball in the summer, which is the equivalent of college wood bat leagues today. except for the fact that it was aluminum bat and anybody could play. So, I mean, I was in the box facing these 35-year-old guys with beards and pot bellies who could really chuck it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. But anyway, so I got an internship with the broadcasters for the Pirates. And I'd had to decide, okay, because there's too much conflict, what do I want to do? And I figured, okay, I wasn't playing every day with the semi-pro team. So let's go with the broadcast side. One of the broadcasters decided he needed some time off to go take care of some other business interests. And the other broadcaster said to me one night when he was in there by himself, he goes, "You want to do the fifth inning tonight?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely." So I did the fifth inning. The next night he goes, "You want to do 2 innings?" I'm like, "Sure." And he goes, "I've got some stuff to do around July 4th, go to the softball tournament. I got to go to this and that." And he goes, "Why don't you come in and do the middle innings? We'll do a few games together." And so now I'm doing 3 innings a night. And by the 4th of July, I was doing both ends of a doubleheader by myself at age 19.
So play-by-play and color.
Yeah, and I caught the fever, right?
Wow.
And so I ended up doing about 45 games that summer. And when I went back to school for my sophomore year, I'm like, okay, now I know what I want to do. And that got me going, and didn't get back in the baseball booth for a while because it's so competitive. But it took until I got to Las Vegas, and I got an opportunity with the AAA club in Las Vegas. And that really was like going back to school for me. I learned more about baseball in 10 years in the Pacific Coast League than I ever did playing. And it was, I learned a lot about professional baseball as opposed to the baseball I was playing.
Now, I got another question about the Sandlot days, because we didn't really talk about, you mentioned a lot of teams because you had access to watching a lot of teams, but who was the favorite team and who were the players that you really admired and looked up to and tried to emulate?
Well, as a kid growing up in New England, it had to be the Red Sox, right? So you really have no other choice.
And they weren't good back
because
then. They were not very good.
No, but they had some really good players. They really did.
Absolutely.
And when I was a kid, I remember going to my first game at Fenway. And when I went to work for the Red Sox, and I went to interview that day, and they brought me in for a little bit of a tour of the park, which I'd been to a million times anyway. I asked the guy, I go, "Can I take you on a tour?" And I took them up the ramp on the third base side, behind home plate, but to the third base side that I walked up as a kid for the very first time. And I remember going to Fenway. I was probably, 6 years old. And the first time I went in and saw how green the grass was, and how intimidating that wall looked in the outfield, and the dull green color it was, and how white the Red Sox uniforms were. They were whiter than white. And when you've just seen them on television, and then you go in and see it live for the first time, it was incredible. I remember they played the Baltimore Orioles, and we sat on the third base side, and the third baseman was Rico Petrocelli.
Oh, yeah, Rico.
And because I sat so close to third, we were sitting over the dugout a few rows back. I was sitting so close to third, I could watch Rico Petrocelli the whole game. So he became my favorite player at the time. And I thought, man, this is amazing. This is so great. Carlton Fisk was catching. They had Bernie Carbo in the outfield. Dwight Evans was in right field.
Well,
Jim Rice was.
We all imitated Louis Tiant at some point, right?
We all did. Everybody did. Yeah. And so it was, in fact, we were just talking about Louis Tiant on one of our Dodger broadcasts the other day in Cleveland. My partner, Rick Monday, got Louis Tiant, when he was with the Indians, struck out Monday for his 1,000th career strikeout. He was the 1,000th victim. So we brought that up to Rick while we were talking on the air. But Louis Tiant's name came up, and it always does. And when I was with the Red Sox, I got to know Louis, and so sad we lost him last year, but he was just such a great gentleman of the sport. Great. And it was great for me when I went to work for that club, to go meet all these guys.
Oh my God.
And be around them and get to know them and have them call me by my first name. I mean, I can tell you, I had a really surreal experience down in spring training one time at JetBlue Park. They had some early work on the field, and at JetBlue Park, the Red Sox were in the third base dugout, unlike being in the first base dugout at Fenway. And so I go down in the dugout, and I'm standing there. I all of a sudden it hit me. I was down talking with Jerry Remy, because Jerry was one of our broadcast colleagues at the time. And up comes Dwight Evans and Carl Yastrzemski. And the four of us are there in the dugout. And of course, Yaz was everything New England when I was a kid. He was the guy, right? He was the guy. So I'm standing there, just the four of us, me, Jerry Remy, Carl Yastrzemski, and Dwight Evans. And I'm looking over at these three gentlemen, and I'm going, okay, which guy doesn't belong here? and eventually, they included me in the conversation and everything. And then I eventually said, it doesn't seem right for me to be standing here with these three guys. And I excused myself and I said, great to see all of you. And they're like, okay, Tim, see you. And they're calling me by my name as I walk away. And I'm just blown away. And I've got a great photo of Yaz along with my broadcast partner in Boston, Joe Castiglione, both Hall of Famers, and me. Yaz has his arm around me and he's laughing. And it's just such a great picture. I got it framed. And he was one of the heroes of my youth. Absolutely. And, 1978, I'll never forget when he popped up to Greg Nettles in game number 163 and the Yankees would win it. And the Red Sox, after having an unbelievable year, were out. They were out. They weren't going to the postseason because of that. But it wasn't, Yaz had such great seasons. And in, 67, I wouldn't have remembered it because I was only a year old. But in 67, he was the Triple Crown winner in the American League. And the manager of that team was Dick Williams, who's also in the Hall of Fame. Now, Dick and I crossed paths in Las Vegas. And Dick and I got to broadcast games together, both of the AAA team. And we did a lot of college games together because Dick was working for the Yankees at that time as a special assistant scout. And he would have to be out at all the local games. And he knew the guy in charge of broadcasting. They were good friends. And they said, hey, would you mind sitting in broadcasting? And my time sitting next to Dick Williams, the old manager of the Red Sox and the Expos and the Mariners and the Padres and, and the A's, that was for me like going to baseball university. That was like getting my master's degree in baseball, sitting with him, talking with him. And he took a liking to me, fortunately. He had this reputation of being this old gruff guy, but he was soft as a grape with me. And for whatever reason, he liked me. I could call his house and talk to his wife, Norma, on the phone, and she'd give him, I could just call him. That's the relationship that I had built with Dick. But Dick had told me about Carl Yastrzemski, and he said, of all the people he managed throughout his World Series career, he had never had a player with a better year than Yaz had in 1967. And think about the Hall of Fame players that guy managed over his career.
Oh, my God.
It was incredible, especially with the A's.
And all right, here's this kid that grew up a huge Red Sox fan. He ends up being the play-by-play guy for the Red Sox. You think about the American dream, and we all thought one day we're going to be big leaguers. The next best thing is to be a broadcaster for the team that you grew up loving. And you had a period of time where you got to do that. That's unbelievable. We're going to go to a break. We'll be right back with more from Tim Neverett when we return right here on Fox Sports 610 AM and 106.7 FM. The Sandlot, it's where everybody plays. I'm your host, Tad Powers. The Sandlot is presented by the Sandlot Radio Network.
My name is Ethan Holiday. Play shortstop for the Stillwater High School baseball team. I am a couple months away from being hopefully selected in the Major League Baseball draft. I am now part of the Sandlot.
Terramar Collective isn't just a brand, it's a tribute. Born from the Southern California coast and inspired by the legacy of a father who helped shape the board riding world literally. Terramar Collective repurposes vintage flannels and rare finds, blending timeless style with surf heritage. Honor the past, wear the story. Find us on Instagram at Terramar Collective. Do you want more than just wins for your kids? Do you want confidence, character, and grit? At Grit Sports Collective, we help young athletes play with purpose and train with passion. With elite coaching in baseball and basketball, we're building more than skills, we're building competitors. Because greatness starts with mindset and is earned through sweat. Grit Sports Collective. Play fierce, train harder. Now enrolling in San Diego, California. Visit gritsportscollective.com and sign up today.
Looking for printed apparel for your school, business, sports team, or company event? Max Graphics LA is your solution. Go to maxgraphicsla.com today and check out our options. We offer screen printing, embroidery, and more on clothes from major suppliers. Our graphic designers can help you with your logo or design. We also offer custom online retail shops where we take care of all orders and fulfillment. Visit our website at maxgraphicsla.com or call 310-595-1195 today to get started.
This is Aaron Cook.
This is Aaron Rowe.
This is Al Leiter.
This is Chase Headley.
This is Clint Hurdle of the Colorado Rockies, and I listen to The Sandlot.
Welcome back to the Sandlot right here on Fox Sports 610 AM and 106.7 FM. KAVL, the Antelope Valley Sports Talk Station. I'm your host, Tad Powers. Right now we have more from a guy who has been calling baseball games for fans his whole adult life, Tim Neverett. To come over and have a partner like Rick Monday, and I told you off air that I've done a lot of interviews over the years. I'm approaching my 300th show, Tim, and I've done a lot of interviews, but the one that made me the most nervous was Rick Monday, because I grew up in the era as a Cub fan where he was so good, and I just loved watching him, and then watching him rip that flag out of that dude's hand at Dodger Stadium on national TV. He became one of my true heroes. So when I interviewed him, I was really nervous, and you're with him every day. And talking about a man with a golden voice that's perfect for radio and TV broadcast. In addition to Tim Neverett, you got Rick Monday's voice is golden.
He's the best. He's such a great guy. And he was built to be a broadcaster. And when you talk about analysts in the game, he's more than just an analyst, because he is an actual broadcaster. People forget that while he was playing for the Dodgers in the offseason, he was a sports anchor on Channel 11 in Los Angeles. People would watch him playing in the outfield and playing for the Dodgers. And then when the season would be over, he'd be out covering the Lakers or the Kings or the Rams or whatever. And they'd see him in locker rooms asking a lot of questions. And then when he did retire from playing, he went into it full time. So, I mean, he's been a broadcaster. So many analysts that we see are not necessarily broadcasters. Rick used to do talk shows. He used to do Dodger talk, and he'd do it by himself. He could do anything. And he did a lot of play-by-play when the Dodgers used to rotate guys around. And there's nothing, I think, in broadcasting that he can't do. His eloquence is amazing. I'll never forget the night that Vin Scully passed away. We were in San Francisco and doing the game on the radio, and we found out in the top of the fifth, and we had known for about a little over a month that Vin was in hospice and it could happen anytime, so we were kind of prepared for it. But when it happens, you're just not ready. And we were told to hold the news until the Scully family said it was okay to release it. So we had to wait almost another inning, knowing and not telling the audience. And then when we got the word from the Dodger front office that, okay, you can say it, we came back from a commercial break, and typically I would take back the breaks. So I looked at Rick. I said, Rick, there's no way I can take this back. You need to take it back. Forget about the game. Say what you need to say. Go as long as you need to go. And he did. He took it back. And the game was completely secondary at that point, but he was as eloquent a speaker as I've ever heard. Emotional, historical, just absolutely a wonderful tribute to the guy that he had known most of his adult life. And the game became secondary that night, and Rick just regaled us with memories of Vin and stories. And in the seventh inning, Larry Baer, the president of the Giants, came in the booth, and he said, we're not going to announce it at the stadium until the game's over, because we don't know who in your dugout might be affected emotionally by this, and we don't want to affect the integrity of the game, so we're going to hold off, which was a classy thing by the Giants to do. And they did that. And as soon as the game ended, usually there's organ music and everything else, and there was nothing. It went dead silent. All you could hear were the seagulls screeching, because they come in the eighth inning and they hover around. They wait for everybody to leave. And these seagulls are so big, you can put saddles on them. I mean, they're giant and they're loud, but that's all you could hear. And they put a picture of Vin up on the Diamond Vision in center field, date of birth, date of death, which happened to be that day. So people started to realize what had happened, and then people who were leaving stopped. They turned around. The umpires who were leaving the field stopped and all turned around. The players who were leaving the field stopped and all turned around. And a spontaneous, applause of appreciation for what Vin had meant to the game broke out. And it was still, to me, one of the most amazingly good but bizarre scenes I've ever been a part of in baseball. But Rick Monday, for me, started that all off in the way that he spoke about Vin so eloquently. But any night, I mean, his timing is sharp. He's funny. He's witty. He's got a dry sense of humor, and he really, really knows the game, better than most. And this is a guy who, for whatever reason, has not received Hall of Fame consideration as a broadcaster, and he should.
He will.
There's no question.
There's no doubt that he has to go in.
Yeah, and even as a contributor for, saving the American flag, something that he has kept. He was presented the flag by the Dodgers. He has kept it all these years. He has used it to raise money for military families. In fact, last night before the game, he was giving a tour to some, former U.S. Marines that were there. They came in the booth. I got to meet him, and he does this on his own.
He's
right.
awesome.
I mean, nobody knows he does this stuff, but he takes care of military families because he's a retired Marine Reserve expert marksman. So when Rick was playing, he was also in the Marine Reserves.
Wow.
And people forget that too.
Well, back then you had to have that off-season job, and you might have to go in the reserves just to survive and feed your family.
Yeah.
Back then, those guys didn't make a whole lot of money.
No. No, but he was very smart, is very smart. And it's great. Like when we go to Chicago, we go to Wrigley Field, and I'm there with Rick Monday, and you see all these old timers like us and older who just fawn over him.
No doubt.
Because of, you know, I mean, he was leading off for the Cubs. He was playing center field. He even played some first base with Chicago for a while. But he was one of the great Cubs for a little while, wearing number 7, Rick Monday. And so many people remember him. And, you know, even with the Dodgers, especially, people always talk about his home run against the Expos in 1981 that ended up vaulting the Dodgers over the Expos and taking them to the World Series in 81, which they ultimately won over the Yankees. But it was Rick Monday's home run in Montreal. They call it Blue Monday in Montreal. And we go places. And I remember we were in Pittsburgh one night. We'll sometimes walk back to the hotel. We were getting ready to walk on the Clemente Bridge across the Allegheny River back to the hotel. And we hadn't gotten to the bridge quite yet. And people are screaming, "Hey, Rick, I loved your hotel. I mean, I loved your home run in Montreal." And he screamed back, "Yeah, so did I." And then we move along, and people stop him for autographs all the time. He's gracious about it, and I can't even tell you the number of photos and of him saving the flag or him hitting the home run in Montreal I've watched him sign over the years. It's it's been incredible to be around him, get to know him, and be around a living piece of baseball history like Rick Monday.
He's a man with a golden voice. He's Tim Neverett. He's been a major league broadcaster for the Pirates, the Red Sox, and now the Dodgers. Not to mention he's done Olympics, he's done college baseball, basketball, football. That's a true broadcaster, man. If I did anything in this, it's going to be baseball only. But, man, you've got the knowledge to do any sport.
It's funny, I got to do my first NHL games over the winter this year. I'd done a lot of hockey in the minor leagues and in college, both TV and radio, and I got a phone call out of the blue this year from the Anaheim Ducks. And they said, "Hey, somebody here knows you. We got a problem. We got a guy who's sick. Can you come down and do some games with us?" And I said, "What time do you need me?" And I went down there and did a home game. And then they sent me on the next road trip with them. And I was reliving my old days in hockey, and I had a blast. I loved it. And they were so good to me. But it was fun. And I the fact that as a younger broadcaster, I learned to do all these sports, and I learned to do all the different things you need to do them. At a time when you want to eat, right? You got to work. So you learn to do all these other things. And hockey was a big one for me. I did 5 years in the minor leagues, and I did several years in college hockey on TV. I did 2 national champions. I did Denver when they won back-to-back titles.
Huge.
I also did television for the University of Massachusetts when they won the national title, and Cale Makar was playing on the blue line for him.
Wow.
And it was awesome to watch him win the Hobie Baker. I've had 2 Hobie Baker winners, Matt Carl at Denver and Cale Makar at Massachusetts. And so I've seen, very high level college hockey too. And that's one of my little guilty pleasures is broadcasting hockey and seeing all these guys and having been at these exciting games.
Now it's appropriate to call you Professor Neverett because over at your alma mater, Emerson, you've been a professor of, I'm guessing, communications, radio broadcasting, television broadcasting for 7 years.
And my mother was a teacher. My brother was a teacher. My sister was a teacher. And I thought, I could probably enjoy this. And I think I would enjoy teaching these young adults. And, I do expect a lot out of them at their age. I do teach the upperclassmen. I kind of said, okay, I'd like to do it, but only, 400 level. So I get juniors and seniors, and it's more helpful for me to be able to communicate with them that way. But teach, radio, television, broadcasting, sports media, public relations, and we teach some contract business stuff with terms of agents, different things like that. So I have 3 different courses I teach, and I rotate them around based on the semesters. And I really enjoy it. I enjoy helping the students get to the next level. I help them with internships. I'll recommend them for jobs. And it's very, I didn't realize how rewarding it was going to be for me to get a note from a former student saying, "Hey, thank you for what you taught me, and thank you for helping me get this job," and things like that. That's worth more than money to me. Is to be able to help a student, and fortunately, I've been able to help a number of them move on to the next level and start their careers.
That is an awesome feeling. I get the same thing with baseball. I've helped a lot of kids get into college. And during my scouting days, I signed a lot of kids. And knowing that you laid the foundation for them to go on and do something important in their life that can support a family, that's the most important thing to me. And not too many of them end up being big leaguers. There's handfuls, but they did something great with their life.
Yeah, while we were at Emerson, we kind of learned that, okay, it's not a big enrollment school, so you got to take care of each other, right? Take care of the next generation. The generation before us will try to take care of you as best they can. And of course, our baseball coach always used to tell us, not a single one of you is going to the big leagues unless it's as an announcer. And it was funny because the first time I did that, I went to the big leagues with the Pirates. I actually did some stuff with the Colorado Rockies first as a fill-in and then full-time with the Pirates. And when I got the Pirates job, I started hearing from a ton of my former teammates saying, he was right, and you're the guy. It was very important for all of us to learn to take care of other Emersonians. And, one of my teammates became a news director of a television station in Vermont. He's now the Secretary of Agriculture for the state there.
Wow.
But he would only hire Emerson people. And when I was with the Red Sox, we created an intern program that was only Emerson students for the broadcast booth. All those people are doing really well. In fact, one of them is still broadcasting baseball to this day, and another one's a researcher, and they're all doing very well. People that came in there and worked for us. They got a great experience too, because we had playoff teams and they got to be in the booth with Joe Castiglione and me. And some nights they sat in between us and just listened and learned. And other nights we'd give them all kinds of jobs to do. And post game, we'd send them down to the clubhouse to get the player to put on the headset to interview. So they experienced all this stuff. And that was through the internship that I had created through Emerson and Emerson only. And that was one of the benefits of being an Emerson student, is you had that internship there in Boston. And unfortunately, when I left, they didn't continue it. The school wanted to, but the flagship station said, nah, we're not going to do that anymore. He's gone. We're going to do our own thing. And it hasn't been the same since.
He's Tim Neverett. He's got a golden voice. He's now with the Dodgers, but he's doing this pretty much his whole adult life. He's one of the greatest broadcasters that I know. Thanks so much for being a guest here on The Sandlot, Tim.
I appreciate it very much, and thanks to the listeners for bearing with me. But when I visited the Dominican Republic and I've driven around, and I see in the middle of winter, every kid with a glove and a hat out there in these dusty fields playing baseball because they love it. It really hits home on how important the game is in certain areas of the world. Not just my little corner in New Hampshire or anybody else's corner, whether it's in Colorado or California or wherever, but how important this game can be and how life-changing it can be for a lot of people who continue to pursue it, work hard at it, regardless of whether they go into scouting, whether they go into public relations, whether they go into broadcasting, whether they're able to play, be a trainer, things like that. You want to do it at the highest level you can. And as my partner in Pittsburgh always used to tell me, the great Steve Blass, former pitcher, he used to say, hey, it's one thing to get to the big leagues. It's another thing to stay.
Yeah.
So once you get there, you got to figure out how to stay. And that's the biggest trick of all.
Thanks for listening to the 8th Sandlot show of the 2025 baseball season. You can listen to the Sandlot every Saturday morning right here on Fox Sports 610 AM and 106.7 FM. Also streamed live on 610foxsports.com. You can catch replays of this year's and past seasons' episodes of the Sandlot Radio Show on the Sandlot Radio Show SoundCloud page. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Sandlot Radio Show for video content with the players. We also have links to our YouTube and Spotify and SiriusXM MLB network. Please explore the SandlotRadioNetwork.com website to check out reels and images from our long history of covering everything from the Sandlot to the big leagues. If you're interested in advertising your business on the Sandlot Radio Show, give us a call at 303-350-0655 or send us a message through the website. We want to thank all of our guests on today's show. We had our resident baseball fanatic and producer, Nick Wright, in our Who's Hot, Who's Not opening segment. We also featured a true professional in the world of sports broadcasting, Professor Tim Neverett, now play-by-play guy for the world champion Los Angeles Dodgers.
Is this heaven?
It's Iowa. Is there a heaven?
Oh, yeah. It's the place dreams come true. I'd like that.
Do you want more than just wins for your kids? Do you want confidence, character, and grit? At Grit Sports Collective, we help young athletes play with purpose and train with passion. With elite coaching in baseball and basketball, we're building more than skills, we're building competitors. Because greatness starts with mindset and is earned through sweat. Grit Sports Collective. Play fierce, train harder. Now enrolling in San Diego, California. Visit gritsportscollective.com and sign up today.
Terramar Collective isn't just a brand, it's a tribute. Born from the Southern California coast and inspired by the legacy of a father who helped shape the board riding world literally. Terramar Collective repurposes vintage flannels and rare finds, blending timeless style with surf heritage. Honor the past, wear the story. Find us on Instagram at Terramar Collective.
Step up to the plate with EconoAir's Solar Services. Their solar solutions deliver unbeatable energy savings, keeping your power bills low all season long. Be a game changer. Switch to clean energy today. Sandlot listeners mention the show for an exclusive discount on maintenance or repair. Call EconoAir at 714-333-0130 and hit your energy savings out of the park.